today we'll use a block, most likely. You could probably use a rolled up blanket instead. If you have a couple of balls, we'll use them. I remember that other class you guys were talking about, we might use the gorgeous ball, but let's not do that today. We'll use a rolled up blanket or a block instead of that if we need it. And we are going to start on our backs and have your block close by and your balls close by. You can pad your head and neck if you'd like. And let's do a brief check-in so we can get started here. Just feeling yourself on the floor. Following your breath in and following your breath out. Noticing where the back of your pelvis is touching the floor and noticing your feet on the floor. And you can rest your hands if you'd like anywhere on your torso, just to notice the sensation of your breath as it comes in and as it goes out. And try a couple more like that. So just simply noticing if you're using your hands, you might feel it below your hands. And then we'll take our feet and our knees hips distance if they're not already, and just begin to rock your pelvis. So exhale as you press the low back down, and inhale as you rock the pelvis forward so you have a low back curve, and repeat. And then just noticing how your low back is feeling today, how your hips are feeling. Good, and then finding a neutral position. Let's gently take the feet about or wider than hips distance, and spread the arms, and then windshield wiper the knees side to side. And let yourself go slowly or quickly, whatever feels better. Noticing how this feels around the hips in particular. Good, now coming back to the center, let's inhale, reaching arms overhead, and exhale, let's bring the right knee in and give it a squeeze. And as you do that, let's straighten the left leg on the floor. Good. And now let's hold behind the right leg, and straighten the leg up toward the ceiling, and then bend it again. Now, if this is just too much of a reach, you could grab a strap and place it behind your hamstrings instead on that right side, or you could also bend the left knee. Okay, so that's an option as well. But now the next time you straighten the leg, let's leave it up there, and really push the leg forward into your hands as though you were trying to break through and bring the foot to the floor, like as if you were trying to do that. And then let's engage the left leg as though you were standing on the floor if you've got it straight. Relax through the shoulders and try to even out the two sides of your hips. Good. And now as you exhale, we're going to gently soften the muscles of the legs and take the right leg out to the right a little or a lot. You can prop it with your hand and your elbow on the floor, or you could lean it against something and kind of see what works. You could also use a strap. Let's take a couple of breaths here. Good. And then exhale, engage the abdominals, bringing the leg up to the center. And now we're going to bring the leg across the body to the left. Now, you may find you need to bend it a little or maybe even a lot. You can also land it on your block, put the block up high or use a pillow or the wall to land on. And take a couple of breaths here. If you had your left knee bent, you'll want to straighten it to do this, or straighten it at least a little. Your right hip does come off the floor when you're there. Just taking a couple of breaths there. Feel like you're trying to roll the top edge of your right hip away from your nose. And now exhale, engage the abdominals. Let's come back up to the center. And then bend the knee, foot to the floor, straighten out the leg. And just notice the two sides here. Following your breath in and out. And then inhale, reaching arms up and overhead. Let's exhale to bring the left knee in, and we'll hold it there for a few breaths. Good, and now from here, let's hold behind the leg, either with your hands or strap, and begin to bend and straighten the leg. You could always bend the right knee too, if you wanted. All right, and then let's leave the leg up there, and imagine you're standing on the floor with the right foot, the right leg engaged, the left leg pushing forward as though you're trying to break through your hands. Good, and then lightening up on the legs a bit, and we'll take that left leg out to the left. You can put your elbow on the floor, or you can let your leg land on something. Breathing slowly, using your umbrella breath. So every inhale, expanding through the ribs, expanding through the torso. And then let's exhale, engage the abdominals, bringing the leg up. We're going to take the leg across the body, and you can use a prop to land on, or the wall, or a piece of furniture. You can extend the left arm to the side. Feel like you're rolling the outer left hip away from your face, away from your chest, down toward the end of your mat. Good, and now on your exhale, engage the abdominals. You might want to bend the knee as you bring the leg up. And then foot to the floor, straightening out the leg. Just notice for a moment. Good, and I'm going to bend the knees so that we can get a blanket set up. So we're just going to roll to the side, and you'll want some sort of firm blanket. And we're going to roll it up into a thin taquito. So like a long, thin roll, because it's going to go below your lumbar spine. This height might even be too tall for people. So just make sure that it doesn't feel like too much. We'll be putting this, the lumbar spine is the low back. Okay, so we're gonna put that there. Yeah, so you should be able to feel it, like when you come down onto it, if it's too big or not enough. Okay, so it's accentuating the curve of my lumbar back, and I'm going to tuck and untuck my pelvis, like I'm doing pelvic rocks on this roll. So my knees are bent, and I'm rocking my pelvis forward, and my tailbone comes down to the floor, and then I'm tucking my tail. My tail actually lifts off the floor as my low back presses into the blanket, and then I repeat that. A few more times. You can always rock back and forth a little bit too. Good. And now let's lift up and just take the blanket away. Come back down with your tail and just notice how you feel. You might want to rock a little bit or draw knees in. And then we will grab our balls here. And if you have them in a little mesh bag, that'll work. And I'm going to take them below one side of my glutes. So I'll show you on the screen. I'm going to keep the two balls together, but you don't have to. It's just less intense if you do. And I'm putting up on the high point of my glutes, and then I'm going to be using my body to help them roll from like the inner high point of one glute down and out toward the bottom outside part. So they're going to go up and out. So for some of you, if it doesn't bother your hip to have that knee on that same leg fall out to the side, then you would do that. But if it does bother it, you would just roll back and forth without letting the knee fall out to the side, okay? You're gonna just get some of the tension out of your seat, basically. And you can find spots, like I just found a really little tight spot in there that I'm working a little bit more. Roll back and forth on that. We're not going to do this for very long, so you're just going back and forth. And then when you're ready, you'll take that away, pause to notice the two sides. You might even straighten the legs to do that. Then we'll bend the knees and do the second side. So you'll take the balls or ball to the upper inner part of the muscle of your glutes, and then you can let that left knee, or whatever side you're on, you can let the knee fall out to the side as long as that doesn't hurt your hip, and then begin to roll on it. And if it does hurt to let the knee fall out to the side, you just keep the knee up and down and just do it however you can. And we were talking about how for one of you, it was okay to have your knee out to the side like this, external rotation when you're on your back but not seated. And that would make sense to have more of your spine involved when you're seated. That's true. Just thinking about this out loud. Okay, and then let's take that ball away, or balls, and you could either have your legs straight or keep them bent as you notice for a moment. There's lots of good ball stuff, I think, in the past couple of weeks that we've done with balls on the low back, but we're going to keep moving so we have enough time, and this time we're going to use a block. So we're going to take a low block. You could also use a tightly folded blanket that was higher than the taquito, so like thicker than the taquito. But I'm going to take a low block, slide it under the sacrum, so that's between the two pelvic halves, so you're in a low supported bridge. And I'm just rocking on the block. So I'm just getting a little bit of body work here against the block, but against my sacrum. Yeah, a lot of stuff that connects in there. Good, and then coming back to the center and just pausing for a moment there. And notice what it feels like to tuck your tail more. So to kind of lift the tail, and then what it feels like to untuck the tail more, and like just how that feels in your body. So you're just exploring. And then from here, we're going to inhale to press into the feet and squeeze, engage the glutes, lift up off the block, and exhale as you slowly lower down. All the way down to the floor. And just pause there for a moment. Good. Let's roll over onto one side. It can be either side. We're going to stay on that side, get some head and neck support. We'll stack the knees up. You'll come out in front. And then have your bottom arm straight and your top arm on top. I'm going to open like a book. So the hands are touching, arms stay straight. Inhale, and then exhale, open the top arm up to the opposite side, and inhale, close, and repeat. Now, as you do this, notice how it feels wherever you're experiencing sensation. So you might be experiencing sensation across the top of the hip if you're trying to keep those knees stacked, or in your back, somewhere along your spine. Just noticing your shoulder or arm. And then if you want to, you can keep the arm open and breathe. You might have to bend the elbow. Let your head, if you haven't been already, let that head rock so that you're looking toward the ceiling. And try to take big breaths to both sides of your rib cage. Good, and then exhale, let's close the arm. And you can roll over to your other side or flip your body around. And get your head and neck support set up. Arms stacked, knees stacked. We're going to try to keep those knees stacked so the top knee doesn't roll back as you're moving. And then inhale, arms stacked. Exhale, open up, let the head rock so the nose starts to look toward the ceiling. And then inhale, close again, and open again. Good, and now let's stay open for a couple of breaths if it feels okay. Good, and then let's exhale, close the book. We're going to roll over onto our bellies. So as you roll over onto the belly, if you need blanket support below your hips or below your ankles, go for it. You're going to come into Sphinx pose. And noticing here how this feels through your low back or your upper back. And let's exhale and press the pubic bone down, engage the glutes, and engage the lower belly. And then if you want to, you can try lifting your elbows away from the floor, a little low cobra, and then come back down to Sphinx. And you can do little repeats like this if it feels okay in your low back. It's really good to do stuff on your belly like this. It may be counterindicated if you have some low back stenosis going on. Some people have that and then it still feels good though. So you just have to see what feels good. But this is great if you sit a lot because it's doing the opposite, right? We're extending the spine. Usually when people are sitting, they tend to round a little bit or a lot, and this can also help with bulging discs and things like that. Okay, so let's come back down and we're going to try something else, and some of you might be able to do it and some not. Okay, so just do what you can. We're going to have our hands like you're doing push-ups, it's kind of out to the sides like this. And we're going to bend the knees, and you can just tuck your chin and have your forehead down on the floor. Just windshield wiper the knees side to side a little bit. And then I'm going to turn my head to look toward the left, and then I'll let the legs go down toward the right and start pushing into the left arm and then the right arm, and sit up and look around over my left shoulder maybe, okay? Now, if it doesn't work for you to come all the way up, you can stick with windshield wipers, okay? And then if it did come up, okay, then come on back down. Okay, so the movement, say that doesn't work for you. You could pad your forehead like this and windshield wiper, right? Just stay down here. If it did work for you, we're gonna try the other side too. I'm gonna look to the right, let the feet go down toward the left, and then start to push yourself up and look over your right shoulder, and then come back down. And try the first side again. Good, and next time you come up, let's stay up. Come onto hands and knees, and if you're on your belly still, just meet us up here on hands and knees. And we're gonna inhale, tilt the tail up, chest forward in cow pose, and exhale and round. Good, next time you roll out past neutral, let's pause there. Okay. And inhale, and just imagine you've got a teacup balanced on your low back in your sacrum area, and take the right foot back on the floor. And try to keep that teacup balanced as you exhale, staying there, and inhale is lifting the leg without going too high, and inhale, tap it back down, and repeat. Stay protracted through the shoulder blades so the shoulder blades are wide. And now if you want to, you could take your left arm up as well, and then hold it and try to balance. Now, if your wrists are bothering you, being on lock with the forearm can work. You would just not do the arms. Good, and then when you're ready, coming back down, and let's tilt the tail up and start to sit back toward the heels. Noticing how that feels, and then rise back up. So we're just gonna go back toward the heels, exhaling. And inhale, rise, and noticing how this feels through the back, through the hips. You can go slowly or quickly. And then we'll come back up to our tabletop and widen those shoulder blades. So push the floor away. You've got your teacup to balance. Inhale, exhale, take the left leg back. And then notice that you've got more weight through right hip and left shoulder coming down to the floor. Then inhale, lift the left leg, and exhale, tap it down. And just notice if you notice a big difference from the first side. Good, and then next time you come down, let's do the child's pose. Repeats again. So you're going back, Balasana pose, and then up. Exhaling back, and inhaling up. All right, now next time you come up, we're going to come all the way up. So you can tuck the toes, walk the hands back. Inhale, hands above knees, and extend your spine forward. Exhale, bend the knees like you're seated in a chair, and then inhale, stand up. Good. Exhale, arms out to the sides and down. Just pause here for a moment and notice how you're feeling in standing. Noticing how your whole body is feeling. And then let's just do little bounces. Just soften the knees and bounce, 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 bounce. Shoulders relax. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. And then we're going to separate the feet a little bit, like about shoulders distance. And we'll inhale, reach one arm up, up, up. And then exhale, other side. Just going to keep breathing. Okay, now a certain time to breathe. Go side to side. Get as high as you can. Kind of create some space in your back. And then the next time you come back down, let's wiggle the feet closer to one another and hula hoop the hips. Your hands don't have to be on your hips. They can be however they feel best. And then go the opposite direction. Good, and then just come back to the center here. Notice how you're feeling now. All right, let's get our chairs in front of us. Get stuff out of your way on your mat. And we're going to stand right in front of our chair here. And inhale to reach the arms up. Now as you exhale, we're going to take the pubic bone back, kind of like what we were practicing last week. And bring your hands to the seat of the chair. Okay. Inhale to reach your chest forward. And exhale, let's step to chair down dog. is reach those hips back, but we're going to kind of bend one knee and then the other, noticing how that feels around the area of your low back and sacrum. So you're just twisting a little bit as you do that. And going side to side. And then let's bend the knees and step your right foot forward. And I'm gonna bend the right knee just a little bit, but you'll see I'm not in a full lunge. My back heel is down, okay? And my feet are going to separate like they're on two tracks. Now if this bothers your back, you're gonna just have to come up higher. You could put your hands on the wall instead. I'm gonna scoot my right hip back. And then I'm going to try to straighten my front leg a little or a lot. No, very little weight on the hands, okay? So your weight is going to be more on your feet, and the hands are just for balance. And what I'm gonna do is shift my weight toward my right foot, and you'll notice if you had a teacup balance, it would, the left side would be lower, right? So it would fall down. And then I'm gonna shift my weight to my left foot, my back foot, and the opposite would happen. So I'm going back, forward and back. And noticing, as you pass through the middle and find kind of an even spot between the two sides of your hips. And you can pause there. Pressing down through balls and heels of the feet, you can stay upright like this, or you may find you want to go lower and fold. So feel free to do that if you want to. You can prop up your head, just pressing down through the ball of the front big toe and reaching back through the center of the back heel, pressing that down as you relax your neck. Inhale wide, exhale long. Let's do 2 more breaths like that. And 1 more breath. I can't find this so well. Now from here, let's inhale, bend the front knee, and exhale, lift the chest up, and then step back to your downward dog. Stretch away from the arms. Feel like if you were hanging from a bar, how much length you would get through your torso and spine. And imagine you're doing that here. You're reaching away from the chair with your hips, getting as much, trying to decompress the spine. Really create space between the vertebrae, giving those discs some space. Good. And then bending knees, inhale, look forward. Exhale, step your left leg forward. Let's put a little bend in the left knee and then scoot the left hip back so it evens out side to side. And then you can straighten the leg if possible, feet are hips distance. And we're just gonna do the same thing. Shift hips to the front foot and then to the back foot. Shift your weight. And notice if you were balancing that teacup right now, it would be tipping, right? Because you're going to one side with the hips and then the other side with the hips, back and forth. And you may find that one feels really good, gives you a certain stretch that you like, so feel free to linger. And then we'll try to find the middle space if that feels okay. So where is it hips square? You're even. And then you can either stay lengthened forward or you could fold downward. Pressing down through the ball of the front big toe and reaching back through the center of the back heel. Following your breath in and following your breath out. And then we're bend the front knee again. Inhale as you lift the chest, and exhale, we're going back to the downward dog again. So we're working between, and this is what we did when you guys were talking about a class we did a few weeks ago. We're working between symmetrical poses for your pelvis and your low back and asymmetrical poses, right? So this is a symmetrical pose. We're doing the same thing on both sides of the legs and hips. And then as we do that, we're just trying to get a little traction. Hold the chair and reach the hips back, try to decompress the spine perhaps. You can also do this by hanging from something. Even do it when you walk through a doorway, just reaching up with your arm to kind of catch the baseboard or whatever you call it, the trim at the top. And you're not obviously putting your weight on it, but you're kind of putting a little weight on it. That can help too. Just decompress the spine and the back and get some length. All right, let's inhale, bend the knees. This time we're just gonna exhale and step both feet forward. And then take the feet wide. So we're gonna do another bent over pose here, flexed at the hips. Hopefully your back's feeling okay. I've taken the feet wider than my mat, and I'm doing the kind of the same thing, just swaying my hips to one side and then the other, without changing the amount that my knees are bent. So my teacup is falling, the imaginary balanced teacup on my sacrum is falling in this one. I'm just trying to loosen up, so all that area around the low back and sacrum area. Good, and then come to the center here, okay? And I'm gonna take my left hand to the middle of my chair. Now you could use a fist. You could also do this with a fist on a block on the floor, okay? Or a hand on a block on the floor. I'm gonna stick with the chair. And then I'm going to open up my right arm to the side, twisting open. And then I'm going to exhale and bring that right arm down to the chair. Inhale, extend spine forward, and exhale, twisting open to the left. I'm just going side to side here, okay? I'm gonna keep going. You can twist any amount. And the key here too is, let's show with the block, is that if my knees need to be bent in this pose, that's fine. I'm just gonna keep them about the same as I go side to side. But it's also okay to change them, and if you feel like you wanna go lower, you can always go to a prop on the floor. So here we're just we're twisting obviously, right? But we're also gonna mobilize the muscles, the long muscles of the spine, kind of increase the flexibility around the spine to help get rid of tightness there through rotation. Okay, next time you come back to your chair or your prop, we're going to come up. So we'll inhale to extend spine forward. You can exhale to bend the knees and take the weight into your heels so you use your legs to stand. Okay. Then just wiggle the feet close to one another and we'll swing and twist. And now let's come back to the center as you're ready. Now let's either use a wall space or your chair. We're going to be taking one leg up on it. Okay, so I'll show it both ways. So for the wall, this is what I'm talking about. We did this a few weeks ago. Just going to take it up to a wall and stick it to it. Okay. If it's on a chair, it's going to be lower. So this is good for people with not as much mobility in the back of their leg. Like it's very tight to bring your leg up. You can choose whichever one you want though, okay? So it doesn't have to be because of that. All right, so when you're getting your leg up there, you're not going, say you really have a lot of range, you're not gonna go any higher than your hip, because what we're trying for here is to have both hip bones even, okay? Both hip bones even. Well, I know one of the things we probably did pelvic lists too. Okay, we can do those.
Okay, so we're getting our foot up on the wall or the chair. And then you're moving your right hip down. Okay, your right hip goes down, so you're even on both sides. Now, you may need to have your top leg bent if you're really tight and you're using the wall. That's okay. You're just trying to press into the wall, press into the floor, and inhale, stand tall. Now, if you're able to, you might even take the arms up and inhale, stand tall. And then you could exhale, twist towards your right, towards that top leg. Your back arm could come to your hip. Your left hand could come to the knee, and you're breathing. And on the chair, it's the same thing. You might find that you wanna, the chair is just a lot less intense, so that's good if you need it to be that way. And then as you come back to the center, you're gonna inhale, take the arms forward again, and then an up, and then exhale, step down. Okay, just kind of shift side to side. Inhale, stand tall. Exhale, left foot goes to the wall. Okay, and this is way more intense than it looks. It's quite hard for most people to do this, so if it feels hard, that's pretty normal. And if it doesn't feel hard, you might try to find a wall instead of using the chair. You're gonna move the outer left hip down. And just feel the sensation of a stretch here. Try to get both hips even. And even try to untuck your tail so it goes toward the center of the room or away from the wall. Good. Finding your breath. And then you can inhale, arms up. And exhale, you could try twisting to your left. Your left arm could reach toward behind you or toward your hip. And you're breathing. And try to stand up tall. And then exhale back to the center. You can bring the arms back up as you inhale. And then exhale, stepping down. Good. I'm gonna grab our block and you can set it next to the wall or the back of your chair so you have some balance support. If you don't have a block, you can use a stack of books or a stool. Okay, and then put the foot that's near the wall or that's closest to your balance support. That one's gonna go on the block. I'm gonna stand up. Okay, and when you're like this, your hip, the leg that's on the block, that hip's gonna be higher, right? If you were to put your hands on your hips, that one would be higher up, okay? And the other one is not gonna touch the floor, it just dangles. I mean, it might touch the floor, but you're not stepping onto the floor, okay? You're gonna keep it dangling. You can use the balance support. As you press into your standing leg, try to lift the outer hip up so it comes even or maybe even a little higher, and then let it dangle. And you're doing this just to learn this movement because we're gonna do it folded over in a moment. Okay, pressing up and down, and right away, gosh, I need this because I can already feel my hip working hard to do this. I'm breathing. And I'm not bending my knees, right? So knees never bend. Okay, just do it a few more times. Now, if your back has been bothering you when you've been folding forward in the other part of the class, then you might want to just stay with these. Take a break for a moment. You can even swing the leg if you're not going to bend over. If you're going to bend over, what we'll do, if we're going to hinge at the hips, is we're going to do the same thing, same leg, but we'll come either to the back of your chair or the wall or the seat of your chair, and we'll put the same foot on the block, and then I'm going to exhale, hinge, putting my hands on something. I'm going to use the back of my chair actually, so I'm not so far forward. You don't have to be that far. Okay? And I'm going to try to tilt my tail up. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm pressing into the standing leg and lifting the outer leg, outer hip, toward the ceiling. So I'm tipping that teacup. Letting your neck relax. And we're trying to feel this in the standing leg, hip.
Good, and then after you get some fatigue, then I'm going to start to inhale, take that back leg back. Extend the spine forward, get long. And as you exhale, I'm going to bring that back leg forward, and I'm going to let my spine round and bring the leg forward. And I'm going to inhale, extend the spine, take the leg back. And exhale, round the spine, bring the leg forward. A few more. Ooh, it's really working my leg. I don't know about you guys, or my hip. Okay, and then from here, next time I'm going to just set that left foot on the ground, or the outer leg, whichever one you've been swinging, and I'm going to bend the standing leg, the block foot leg. And then I'm going to fold forward over my legs in this asymmetrical forward fold. And you can just see how that feels. You can use the chair, you can come to the floor like me. If it doesn't feel good, of course, come out of it. Keep breathing. And then you can bend both knees to take the other foot off the block, and you can either roll up, or you could inhale, reach your spine forward, exhale, bend the knees, and rise. Notice the two hips. And then you're going to stand on the block with the other foot. I realized I was saying right the whole time, and you guys weren't necessarily using your right. So hopefully you got that. So now the other foot's on the block, and we're just going to do a few standing pelvic lifts to get the movement down. Okay, so I'm pressing into the block to lift my outer hip up, and then I'm letting it fall down. Not bending the knee. When you're folded over, you might have to bend your standing knee a little bit. Okay, and once you feel like, yeah, I know what I'm doing here, then you can come back to your hinged position. Okay. So same thing, same foot on block. Exhale to hinge, right? Get yourself propped so you can reach your chest forward for this first part. And then we'll lift that outer hip, the one the leg is dangling, and let it come back down without stepping down. Let your neck relax. You might feel the outer leg working, you might feel the hip working. So asymmetrical poses working here too in this sequence. Once you get some good fatigue going, so you could always go longer, again, start to take that upper leg back. So you're in a modified warrior 3 pose, or Virabhadrasana 3. Extend the spine forward, so you're getting long. And then exhale, round the spine as you let the leg swing forward. And repeat, inhale, extend the spine. And exhale, round. Good. And then as you're ready, and step down with the foot on the block and do your asymmetrical forward fold. Notice how this side feels. And then you can do a symmetrical forward fold. So if you're not going down toward the floor like me, that's totally fine. You can be using the chair for these forward folds. Now, for some of you, you might like to come down into a squat. Now, that's not going to be for everybody. So I could also use my block for my squat. I like 2 blocks stacked up. You could also use a blanket beneath the heels or behind the knees. And I bend the knees and come down. Now, if that doesn't feel good, just get yourself onto the floor in a seated position, okay? That does work for you. And you can lift up through your chest. And then come down into a seated position. that feels good on your legs. Okay, so that could be, just as a review, Dandasana pose, legs forward straight. It could be Sukhasana pose, cross-legged, Baddha Konasana. It could be just hugging your knees, sitting on your heels, Upavista Konasana, legs out. Just find a position that feels okay. You can even put your back up against furniture or a wall and take a couple of breaths here. Good. We're going to come onto our backs. If you can find yourself, if you have 2 blocks, that will work. Or 2 pillows, 2 things about the same size. And you might need your head and neck support. I'm gonna come onto my back. And just notice for a moment. And for the first part, we're just going to use one of your blocks or a rolled up blanket. We're going to come back to our supported bridge pose, slipping it under the hips. And if you move it a little more down toward your tailbone, and make sure that it doesn't feel too high. Just so you get more length in the low back. And if it feels okay to you here, you can straighten out your right leg on the floor. If when you do that with the block below your hips, it doesn't feel good on your back, then instead use a rolled up blanket or a folded blanket, something that's squishier and lower, and see if that feels better. So again, we're going back to a little asymmetrical pose here. And as you breathe, can you focus on sending your breath all the way down to the front of that right hip? This is just a very gentle, softening pose, or that's the intention of it, okay? If you wanted it to be, there'd be more sensation, you could also bring your left knee in towards your belly and hold it. That would just give more sensation. It's still not too intense, hopefully. And now we'll exhale and bend the right knee again, placing the foot on the floor. So both legs come next to one another and then straighten out the left leg on the floor. See how this side feels. Sending your breath all the way down to the front of that left hip. Even bring that right knee in if you wanted. And now if you've got that left leg still straight, just bending the knee so both feet can come to the floor, or you can try to lift both feet off the floor. So now what I've got is I've got my knees bent, but I'm really balancing on the front edge of my block, or the edge of my block that's closest to my head. And I've got the block far enough toward my tail that this makes my knees fall toward my belly just because of gravity, right? So if you don't feel like they're falling towards your belly, you can try moving your block further towards your tailbone, and that should give you a little more leverage to get the knees to fall towards your belly without effort. And notice if this feels good on your low back or not. Imagine your low back like a hammock that's just kind of relaxing toward the floor. And your arms relaxed at your sides. If you don't like this one, another option, your body would be to take your legs up toward the ceiling. Now, for that one, the block usually needs to be a little bit more toward the sacrum. You can try that or any variations with the legs. And let's try a long exhale. So inhaling and then blowing out through pursed lips on your exhale a little bit longer than your inhale. Or you can breathe out through your nose. And then when you're ready, you can start to bring your feet down to the floor. And inhale to lift up off the block and slide it out. Exhale, coming down, and then just trying to intuit here, what does your body want? Maybe windshield wipers or another kind of twist. Might feel good, a cross-legged twist. Or it might want something like a happy baby pose or a knees to chest. Now I'll recommend, and you can do this or not for our rest, to take your two blocks or your two pillows and taking the soles of your feet together, letting the knees open. Now you want this to have as little sensation as possible, so your blocks can be high up as props. What I mean is you don't want it to be a big stretch. You want to be relaxed here. And you can take any of your other props beneath your head or over your body. If this doesn't feel good to you, just choose Shavasana or constructive rest pose. Moving shoulder blades down your back. Taking a sigh or two. You might stay in Baddha Konasana, this wide knee pose, for a minute or two, or you might decide you want to switch to Shavasana. Straightening out your legs or constructive rest. Just allowing yourself to let go as much as you can. You can stay here as long as you have time for. And I will see you next time.